So speaking about patient-powered research networks, we have colleagues who are collaborating on a variety of them, and we are lucky to have with us representatives of the Duchenne Connect patient-powered research network, also funded under the same program.
Hi, thank you very much. I'm Kyle Brown. I'm the CEO of Patient Crossroads, and Judd Rhode, to my left, is CTO of Patient Crossroads. We are very much in support and echo many of the comments about the patient-centered research. We do patient registries, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how our PPRN is working within the health system and trying to bring together both the patient communities and the academic research communities, as well as pharmaceutical companies at the end of the day. We have various collaborators down at UCLA. Stan Nelson, Nancy Hallinan, and Richard Wang are Duchenne and Becker researchers. At Geisinger Health Institutes in Pennsylvania, Andy Fawcett and Dan Davis, who we've had the pleasure of working with for many years. And then, of course, myself and Judd. On the Duchenne Connect network team, our PI is Holly PA. She's with Parent Project Muscular Dystrophy. And Ann Martin and Ann Lugas are instrumental in really helping us coordinate this. I'm going to talk a little bit about the challenges, and I'm going to really kind of show you what we're trying to do and accomplish in the program. But as far as background, what we've done is actually develop Duchenne Connect to collect information directly from the patient community. We have about 3,000 people in Duchenne Connect today. These are patients that opt in and actually complete one or more medical questionnaires. They will also upload genetic test results, and we'll talk a little bit about EHRs in a bit. But being able to collect confirmatory testing directly from patients has enabled us to actually recruit for exon skipping trials around the world. Disease is not border-based, and what we have found is, even though it's currently in English only, we very much have a global perspective. We have, 90 or so countries represented in the registry today, and continues to grow. We are very active in the global Treat NMD program, which is European registries and biorepository programs. So again, trying to be able to coordinate with the international community is really key. We do track this information longitudinally. We ask the patients to come back and update their information every 6 months or so we can actually follow these folks over time. And we've really been using this in the industry and academic setting. As I mentioned, we have recruited for clinical trials, clinical studies, and it has really become kind of a resource for that Duchenne community, and not only the patient community, the research community as well. We have extended the platform where it's not just Duchenne we're collecting. We actually have over 75 different registries. This slide's actually out of date. We have more than 300 diseases we're tracking currently in this same model, where it's patient-provided, patient-engaged, patient-entered, and then a validated curator will review that information. Some of the challenges that we've seen in the rare disease in particular is, the priority can be really lost in kind of the common disease causes, right? You can't walk out the door without seeing a pink ribbon, for example, but how many times do you see a Duchenne ribbon or another rare disease? So for rare disease communities, rising above that noise factor can be a challenge. And how can you expect researchers and pharmaceutical companies to invest millions of dollars in research if you can't even help quantify that patient community? So that's what we're really accomplishing with this. Getting diversity of these registrants and small numbers engaged has really been critical, and we actually have some diseases where there's 100 known patients, and we'll have 75 of them in the database. So these types of programs are very helpful, not only in Duchenne, where there's 20-some thousand patients, but in really small populations as well. This is a screenshot just of the website, just to give you a little bit of background on how this works. I already mentioned we engage with the patients. It's promoted, and the outreach and marketing is through advocacy organizations. It is not a pharmaceutical company-sponsored program. PCORI is helping us to extend this. This has been in place 7 years or so. Duchenne Connect has, and it has continued to grow. But some of the things that we've struggled with is the fact that it is patient-provided information, and how do you verify the quality of that data? So through our current program, as I mentioned, the patients upload testing results, and then we have genetic counselors review that information, even transcribe it down to their mutations and exons, which has provided great genetic information. But how can you do that on a really grand whole-scale basis is a different question. And the other issue we have is tracking meds, labs, ongoing test results, ambulation status. So part of this program is to integrate with electronic health record systems. We actually were at Geisinger a couple weeks ago, and they actually have a program called KeyHigh, which they're currently sharing EHR data with 21 other hospitals and about 200 other private clinics. And we're looking at how we can actually tap into that with the proper consent and be able to suck in electronic health record information to augment that patient perspective, so we can get both the patient provided information as well as the meds and diagnostic codes and the labs that are typically contained in a EHR, but be able to bring that patient perspective as well. One of the things that we do that's a little unique is we have found that you're asking people's time to participate, and particularly in a rare disease, they got their hands full, with their daily lives. They don't have time to be constantly on the site. So you need to motivate them to participate in these types of programs. One of the ways we do that is we give them the information back. Often patients participate in trials or research studies. They never really hear the outcome, or they hear about it way after the fact. As soon as they complete a medical questionnaire, we show them the results. You can see we do Google Maps, which is very helpful in identifying patients around the world, and you can see the worldwide representation that we actually have in that. And then patients can drill down on the diagnosis that other patients in the registry have provided. Everything is de-identified. We show no identifying information. But being able to understand what treatments people are most often seeing or taking. Are they using alternative medications? Being able to compare themselves against the other patients in that same situation has proven to be a really big motivating factor for the community, and it's been really successful being able to keep them in the program. So key initiatives and research, we're really trying to speed the research and capacity about that. So one of the things that we're doing is through the healthcare systems, Geisinger and UCLA in particular. If you think about it, we're using advocacy groups to do the outreach and marketing, but not everybody associates themselves with an advocacy group. So one of the programs that the PCORI, or one of the initiatives PCORI is helping fund, is the ability to look through the data warehouse, like at Geisinger and UCLA, and identify people that may actually have Duchenne. They may have an ICD-9, they may not, but be able to identify folks that are possible candidates for inclusion in the registry so that we can do outreach through the healthcare system to those patients. This is also kind of a communication vehicle. So we have electronic newsletters, and we can actually survey these patients on demand. So if a researcher has a specific study that they would like a survey taken or information from the community, we can do that very easily through this program. And we're allowing these patients to help us set the agenda. What is it that's important to them? What will help motivate them in the system? Being able to include more diversity in overall numbers. I mentioned the Geisinger outreach program. Improving the user experience. One of the things that you just can't get away from anymore is the iPhone, right? I mean, everybody wants to do it on the phone. And I'm shocked how many registrants we actually have that use iPads. It's shocking to me. We have actually had some programs where in the waiting rooms of clinics, this is at neurofibromatosis in particular, NF registry, they have given people iPads in the waiting room, and they're registering in the waiting room, and it's been hugely successful. So for not that much investment, you can invest, or you can engage the patients. The previous speaker talked about, I don't necessarily want to be known. I don't want to be highly engaged. A registry is a good way to do it because you're only asking, people to complete questionnaires, for example, every year or so, or every 6 months. It's not a social network where you need to be highly engaged, for example. So it's a little bit different than that. And being able to decrease the registration burden. We talked about the iPad and the iPhone. We see that as really a critical component to this. So as part of PCoreNet and PScanner in particular, I've already talked about the major opportunities, but it's increasing those enrollment numbers. How do we find everyone? It's difficult. Again, we have about 3,000 or so out of a possible 20,000. The problem that we've seen is that there's competing registries in every given disease. In Duchenne, this is the world's largest Duchenne database. We have about 3,000 patients. There's 50 other registries around the world, 50. Just think about that for a minute. If you're a pharmaceutical company looking to develop drugs and identify patients for clinical trials, are you going to call 50 different registries? It makes no sense. So we're excited about being able to partner with PCORI and PScanner to actually bring these technologies not only to Duchenne Connect, but also to all the other registry programs that we currently manage. So it's a much more scalable, efficient model. The other thing that we are delivering through PCORI is a physician entry portal. So along with patients providing information, they have the ability to ask their providers or healthcare providers to actually log into the system and complete their test results manually. So we've actually done this with some other organizations, Foundation Fighting Blindness in particular, where the researcher will log in right there with the patient and complete test results and other information about that patient right in the clinic with the person. So it allows us to get both patient and physician provided data. I'm sure I've already hit on this, but some of the things that will be critical is being able to integrate that electronic health record data into the system, but also getting more and more test results. The challenge is, again, our model is get the data from the patients, and right now we've had to go to that because EHRs have been largely inaccessible. So in lieu of that, the patients are providing this information, and then we have to transcribe it, or what we call curating that data. The problem is that's not a very scalable model. So there is right now a need for collecting this information, but then we may hold it. If nobody's using it or consuming it right now, why really go to the effort of transcribing all that data? So currently, some of this data we're going to hold and then curate it when a pharmaceutical company needs it and has money to fund it, or there's a grant that we might be able to get to go and get additional information. And as I mentioned, we are trying to do this in a really scalable, efficient manner. It's not a one-off. This is very much for all of our registries that again, cover about 300 diseases now. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
So questions for Jane? It's coming.
Thanks. So I wanted to pick up on the plethora or proliferation of rare disease registries and that problem. So Kawasaki disease is also a rare disease. Yeah. And we're just getting our first network going through the Sanford CORDS program, which is the Coordination of Rare Diseases. And
Sure.
So one of the issues that came up for us, and I'm curious to know how this works for you, is funding.
Yeah.
So how are you funded, and how can you promise the people who register with you that you're sustainable and going to exist forever in perpetuity?
Sure. So this is more Patient Crossroads than the project, but what we do is for advocacy, it's free. Rare disease advocacy groups can't afford it, plain and simple. So we give it to them for free. But what we do then is shift the burden of the expenses to pharmaceutical companies and allow them to help fund these registry programs. They have no access to identifying data at all. It is not proprietary to them at all. There's multiple pharmas that can fund any given area, but it's essentially our ability to provide registries for any organization really, for nothing, and then shift the burden in those diseases that have pharmaceutical interests today. They can pay enough to offset the cost of the rare ones. So a little bit of shift in the economics, but it's worked really, really well. Yes, sir.
To populate the data, is it only the questions you ask, or is there a social media component so that if patients were talking about, increase in social stigmatization, or they were talking about a new side effect, would that come out even without a direct question?
Yeah, so the short answer is no. I mean, we don't allow patients to communicate amongst themselves. However, questionnaires and surveys are delivered over time. So part of the idea with the mobile app in particular is the fact that sorry, my timer's going off. My time's up. I'm conscientious. So part of the challenge is teasing this information out of them. So we do it in survey modules, for example. So what we would do is if we hear enough of those questions on social media, we'd package up a structured survey, send an email out to everybody, say, hey, tell us about this. They log back in, complete their survey, then we make that available to the network. So it's a more structured manner.
And as I said in the morning, for the CDRNs, the Clinical Data Research Networks, there is the advantage, too, of having more information than what you can find in an electronic health record should the patient allow this exchange be bidirectional. So I think it's a very important aspect of it. And we have... so we're now in the process. We have already submitted the IRB to get the information about the PPRNs be delivered to the patients. And as the question came before, one of the main concerns was, what if the patient is not alive anymore? You don't want to send that letter or email or other things. So there are a lot of things that intersect in terms of recontacting the patient and how we're going to do this in a safe way. But all the initiatives are great, and I thank you both
Thank
for
you.
coming.